Welcome back to another episode of the Recalibrate podcast. I'm Leon Lopez, and today it's flat out. It's going to be an amazing day. All right. There are times in life when the pressures of life can feel unbearable, when problems stack up so high and they are just so suffocating, you can't see past them. You can't see past that moment. And you think to yourself, this is it. There's no way out. I'm done. And yet somehow, some way, a few people find the strength to push through. My guest today is one of those people. Now, he did not grow up with a silver spoon in his mouth, but he had a dream, and that dream was to fly. He chased it with everything he had growing up, and after high school, he joined the British Royal Air Force, where he mastered some of the most complex aircraft in military aviation. He flew missions across Europe, North America, and even served during operations in the Persian Gulf. Now, after 14 years of service, he left the RAF, and he did something a lot of people only talk about, and that was he kept climbing. He kept chasing that dream, and he earned his commercial pilot's license, joined the airline world, and continued that boyhood dream that he started with of becoming a pilot, remaining a pilot. Everything was working, life was on track until, without warning, it wasn't. What do you do when your career, your identity, your dream is ripped out from under you? Martin's story isn't just about flying or even falling down. It's about rising up. How do you recalibrate when you hit the bottom? Today, he's not just a veteran or a former pilot. He's an author, motivational speaker, and living proof that life after impact can still carry you to incredible places. Let's welcome my guest today, Martin Lloyd. Martin, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Excellent. Now, I speak the Queen's English, or the King's English, so you may have to translate sometimes to people, but because most of your people are going to be speaking American, and I speak English, so we'll see.
I think people are going to enjoy that. I think people are going to listen to this and be like, "Oh man, I like the accent."
I agree,
and they're going to hear that. So they got a little variety. They can hear my everyday blah blah, and then they have your wonderful articulate
speaking. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, give us a cruising altitude, yes. The weather of our destination, the whole thing. All right, hey Martin, before we get started, because you have just an amazing story, and one that just really resonated with me from the day I met you. And I know not only would you be perfect for the podcast, but I think more importantly, your story, every single thing about it, from your drive to the career choices that you made to the accident, but more importantly, what you did after that. I think it's just going to affect so many people, because I am a firm believer that all of us go through our own trauma in however it comes at us. We all suffer on it, but we're not so great with pulling ourselves out of the rut. And you are living proof that not only can you be dealt one hell of a disastrous hand, but there is life after that trauma. But before we get to that, I want to hear about little Martin. All right. Before we took to the skies, I want to hear little Martin with that wonderful English accent. Where were you born? Where you grew up? Family life? Any siblings? All of that.
So I was born in London, England, which is just off the coast of Maine, a bit further than that, where the weather starts. And I'm one of three. I'm the oldest of three boys. My youngest, next brother to me, is 2 years younger than me, and then the next one is 10 years younger than me. So almost an afterthought. And my aunt bought me I don't know if you have Airfix over here, little plastic aircraft models. So She bought me a model of a Spitfire for Christmas when I was 6. So I saw an airplane really for the first time, and this is it. This is what started me on the whole procedure to get flying. So then I went through school, left school at 18. I went to work with my father's company. He did HVAC on construction sites. I did that for 2 years. He's got me some money, a motorcycle and a car and stuff. And then joined the British Royal Air Force, as you said. 14 years serving Queen and country across NATO, standing close to the Americans. And so, not that it counts in the VA system, but that's a different story. And then my aim was to, I was commissioned, not commissioned, I joined as a NCO aircrew, non-commissioned aircrew. So I was enlisted, got to E5 as a sergeant to fly, and then did that for 5 years. Got commissioned initially as a pilot, and then did pilot training, and then they decided it wasn't right for me, so I became a navigator, which is like a weapon systems operator, WISO they call them. So now I was in the back of a Tornado, flew the Tornado across the Gulf, different places, and I was based in Germany. Got shot at for Queen and Country. Decided it was too dangerous, so I decided to leave that and join commercial aviation. I used my gratuity and pension to pay for a commercial pilot's license in the UK, and became a commercial pilot, and got taken on by British Airways Express, basically to run around mainly UK and across the Isle of Man in the Irish Sea and across to France and places like that. This was my boyhood dream since I was 6. So I achieved my boyhood dream.
All right. So 6 years old, you get the Spitfire and you just know. And, there's very few people who know that when at such an early age. I mean, I think for the most part, most folks wander through, grade school, high school, and there's always that pressure.
They don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah, there's the pressure that I have to do something, but I have no clue.
Right.
But you knew at...
I mean, kids grow up, they want to be an astronaut, they want to be law enforcement, they want to be a train driver, engineer, and it changes almost daily.
Yeah.
And they end up selling insurance. But no, I just aimed for that and got there. It took me 30 years to become an airline pilot, and I did it.
Were your brothers like you? Did they have similar interests? Or
Nope. No. Nope, not at all. I was the go-getter achiever of the family. First officer when I was commissioned after 5 years of service, became an 03. So yeah, I'm the first in the military, apart from great uncles who were World War II, but I'm the first in the military.
So having that lifelong dream, what was it like when you took flight for the first time?
I was 9, I think, or 9 or 10, and my father took me up. He paid for a pleasure flight in a small airplane, and it was just tremendous to me. I was looking out the window, and it's, wow, this is where I want to be. This in the air. I want to be in the air. And then when I went on my own for the first time, I was 17, and I flew on my own, and it was just, the instructor gets out and says, "Okay, don't kill yourself," and he walks away. And so you do it, and it's why you've done it so often that you just carry on with it, like anything. And I did it, and it was just, when you get down, you think, "I did it on my own. That's tremendous." And I flew a jet in the Air Force on my own for 6 hours as a pilot, and it was just, I never lost that sense of achievement, which was just brilliant. I kept on going, and this is what's going to fulfill my life.
So when you fly by yourself at 17, and then you join the Royal Air Force, right? So what lessons did the RAF train? How did it prepare you mentally and emotionally for flying?
It was moving, fast forward slightly, the difference between non-commissioned and commissioned. The guys who are non-commissioned look to the officers, the commissioned officers, and go, well, if he's doing it this way, I can do it this way, even if it's wrong. So I was aware right from the start that you've got to be perfect. And it's not the word is not right, perfect, but you've got to be looked at by others, and it's going to be okay. And that's what I got right from the start. The civilian aviation world's a bit more, you get it and you do it and you carry on. Whereas in the military, you've got to be good at it, and also doing the right thing. And that's the main thing, doing the right thing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, because I'm intrigued when somebody goes from doing their particular job in the military and then they transition to do the exact same thing in the civilian life. I mean, it happens quite a bit, but for you to go from that military pilot mindset to the civilian, same mindset, right? But do you notice, I imagine you're taking the same mindset, but do you notice differences with civilian pilots versus military?
Yes. Now, growing up, I was always able to talk to different people. I could talk to royalty. I could talk to people with money. I could talk to the guy on the street. And I wouldn't necessarily talk down to anybody or talk up to anybody. We're a class system in the UK, and so you know your place. However, I could talk to anybody. And as I say, I wouldn't change necessarily what I was saying. I didn't talk down to people, but I'd talk on their same level. So when I came to the civilian world as a flyer, then you can't do necessarily the same things in the Air Force that you can do in the civilian world. Like in the civilian world, you can train someone, but you can't throw them out. Because if they're paying money to do this, you have to take the money. And that's what when I was a flight instructor, that's what I had to do. Because in the military, you can chop them and throw them out. And it's the same with anything. So you can't do that in the civilian world. So I remember when I was doing my initial training onto the aircraft I flew with British Airways Express, there was a hoary old captain. He was lots of white hair, and he had his uniform pressed immaculately. And so I got to him and I thought, okay, I have to pay him some deference. So I said, is it Captain whatever Smith? And he said, yes. And I said, I'm First Officer Martin Lloyd, pleased to meet you. And I shook his hand. And then the next guy came in after me, and he was training with me on the same scenario. But he was different like that. He'd come from the civilian world, and it was more mates. So he said, I'm looking for Captain such and such. And the guy said, yes. And he said, oh, I'm Steve. I'm training with you today. And the guy bristled, and you could see he wasn't happy straight away. So, as I say, you have to do different horses for courses. So I paid him deference, got on well with him. I was good at my job as a pilot, and that helped considerably. The other guy, in fact, wasn't good, and he didn't do well at all. But he didn't start off well, because he'd started off with, I'm Steve, how you doing? And so that ability to talk to anybody and to be disciplined was what I brought from the military to the civilian world. You can't equate them, because, I mean, one guy, I heard him come in, and he was in the Red Arrows, the aerobatic display team, like the Thunderbird or the, okay. Yeah. And he came and introduced himself. Hi, I'm Red 3. And everyone goes, what? Because they don't know in the civilian world. I mean, you don't know that Red 3 is the call sign, Red, and he's number 3 in the display team. And so the captain said, what do you mean? Well, I'm number 3 in the Red Arrows. Well, you're not now, are you? I thought there was something wrong with you. So, yeah, you have to do the right thing. Talk to the right person at the right time with the right way. Otherwise, you just offend people, and it sets them off in the wrong scenario.
Yeah. I mean, 14 years, that's a career in and of itself with RAF. What's your favorite memory as a pilot during that time with RAF?
My favorite memory as a pilot would be flying on my own in a military jet, flying along. And the beauty of my scenario then, I've been in service that time 6 years. So I could talk to the ground crew, whereas the guys that are coming in at 19 to do flying, they couldn't walk and talk at the same time. There was so much going on in their brains, and they couldn't talk to the ground crew and treat them as people. They were just part numbers. Whereas I could, and they knew, because I had a badge on my flight school anyway that said from my previous employment. So they knew, okay, so he's actually qualified to do this. He's been here before. He's not just a newbie. And the question was, as he's forgotten the question, what was the question?
Your favorite memory, RAF.
Yes, going flying, I could do that and being out on my own. I remember flying along, and it was a beautiful sunny day. They can't take this away from me. And even when I did the final exam, the test of flying, and the guy that I flew with, the chief pilot, he wasn't happy with my scenario, the way I presented things. But at the end of the day, he had numbers to think of. There were 9 of us on the course, and they only had 7 people to go forward. And I was one of the ones that they couldn't go forward. So they said, well, you have to go and be something else. So I became the WISO, the flight weapons systems operator.
Okay.
But I thought, we got airborne, we flew up, even on the test, and we flew through cloud, and we broke clear of cloud. And above cloud, it's always sunny. I don't know if people know that, but above cloud, it's always sunny. We get used to it in California, but it's always sunny. So we broke cloud, and I thought, they can't take this away from me. They're never going to take this away from me, which came on later on as well as a mantra for me.
Yeah. Right. Okay, so transition now from that memory with the military to, most folks listening, we've all been on a commercial plane, right?
Yep.
Once. So when you walk on and everybody boards, for the most part, right behind the cockpit, where the captains are, or the pilots rather, and they're in there and they're, doing all their pre-flight checks, I'm sure, and doing all that. In that moment where you see all these paying customers
Yep.
coming on, are you like, ugh, man, like what's the conversation of
So
the pilots?
you see people walking out to the airplane, and there's guys on their cell phone, and then so the two of us at the front there would say, "Oh yeah, there's he's going off, and he's just saying to yeah, bye wife, thanks so much," and then he's calling his mistress, "I'll be there in about half an hour," and blah blah blah. Yeah, so what they're saying, that's what they're
Just
saying.
people watching.
Yeah,
Airports have always been the best place to do that.
the beauty of my scenario there, I did it for 1 year and had the crash, so I never got tired of it.
Mm.
It's like anything in the real world. Whatever job you do, you've done it for 25, 30 years or whatever, and you're bored with it. You're fed up with it. You've seen all the scenarios, even flight training. I did that for 5 years. And you see the same people make the same mistakes over and over again. And you do get slightly bored with it, but it's the different people. So I'm interacting with the people, showing them what they can do, what they can't do. In the future, they can be, they can do whatever they want to do. So my favorite scenario from the civilian world, we got airborne on one day. It was a awful day, flying wide, as in weather-wise. Everyone was upset, passengers. We got to where we're going. We had, I think, 2 or 3 legs that day. So 2 landings. We came back. It was a long day. We went into overtime, which you have to get special permission for, and the captain has to okay it to go to not overtime, out of your flight time. Because you're supposed to do a certain amount of flying time before you then go off and rest. Because you can't fly too much. Like surgeons, you don't want the guy there that's done 17 hours in a day. However, sometimes it happens. So we got back, we got home, and it was dark. And I said to my captain, you know, if they said to me, you're coming in tomorrow, and the same day it happened all over again, I'd do it all over again. I was the happy bunny. I was the puppy that, my favorite thing. That was me.
Just a shiny object every day.
Right.
Mess with it. Okay, so probably a great segue. You have this shiny toy that you're enjoying.
Yep.
You love in life.
Yep.
They can't take it away from you, right?
Mm-hmm.
May 31st, 1998. Talk about that day.
So I've been on vacation with 2 friends on a motorbike. With 3 of us were going out to Germany because I speak German, so they used me as the German speaker. The other Martin, it was 2 Martins, spoke French, so we went through France and back through France. And then Chris was just an English speaker and just carried on with the rest of us. So we had some great biking for 10 days. We drove back. We got on the ferry because there was no Channel Tunnel then. We got on the ferry to come back into Dover. Got to Dover, and then I think Martin called his wife, and then she called the other wives to say the boys are back. They're on their way home. I had a journey of, I think, 2.5 hours. We got on the freeway. I get off the freeway. I waved to the other guys, and they set off. And then my memory finishes. What happened 11 miles later was I get hit by a car who was overtaking. He looked like he was overtaking vehicles, but he went onto my side of the road. It looked like we were going to miss from my people who witnesses. So witnesses. I had 6 witnesses, and that never happens in crashes. So sickness, which they all said the same thing. It looked like that the biker was going to avoid the car because he moved right into the grass verge. But at the last minute, the car driver, and we think he was asleep. I spoke to the law enforcement officer on the few months later, and he said, I think he fell asleep because he was in his 70s, which is not old, but he had a nice big lunch on a Sunday afternoon. It was nice and sunny, so he hadn't drunk anything. But nice big meal. You know what happens? Nice sunny afternoon. You start feeling a bit woozy, so a bit tired, and he must have fallen asleep because he went into he woke up at the last minute as we were due to pass, and then saw my light in his windshield and he turned.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, he turned into me. So he hit me in my sort of right-hand side. My right leg went between the car and the motorcycle. I went over the hood, and my right arm broke his front windshield and dented in the A-pillar in front of the driver. Then I bounced off down the road. We were in a wooded area, so it was a picnic area. And so I went off onto the grass, landed initially on my both legs, apparently, from witnesses, which further caused the damage. And then I went onto my back and slid. And the whole thing from start to finish, 350 yards. Now, I don't know. I don't do football over here, so I don't know how much a football field is. But is that one football field?
Well, yeah, football field's 100 yards.
Oh, is it?
So yeah,
so 3 of those then.
So 3.5 of those. That's
Gracious.
a hell of a distance. So anybody listening, yeah, I mean, every high school in America, most schools in America have a football field, and they're standard, right? Whether it's at a school or in the pros, they're all 100 yards.
Okay.
So to go 350 yards, you got crushed.
So I was doing 60 miles an hour, which was a legal speed limit at the time, and so off I went.
And is this like because I've been in England, I was born there actually, and is this like a country road that you're on, or is it more metro?
It's a country road where it's one lane either way. So a standard side road in America. So that was, but in a picnic area, in a forested area. So fortunately, that meant I came off on grass, and I didn't hit anything solid. There was nothing solid there to hit apart from the ground. But what happened was, the crash had broken open my hips, pelvis. So I slid along on my back with my legs open, and the mud plugged up the wound. Because what happened was, I severed my femoral artery, and I would have bled to death. But the mud plugged up the wound. Now, there's good things and bad things about that. Not many good things, but it meant that I didn't bleed to death.
That's a good thing.
Absolutely, yeah. So the femoral artery, of course, is quite a heavy bit of equipment.
Yeah.
And if you break that, then that's it, you're gone pretty soon. So the mud plugged it up. It made a very dirty wound. This is my wife's favorite word of mine, dirty. So in America, it's dirty, but yeah, dirty. So it made it very dirty, but I stayed conscious. So the first person that gets this is a nurse. So
she's one of the cars driving by.
Yeah. So she's the first person that gets to my body, and she knows not to take off my helmet because you're not supposed to do that, neck injuries and things. But I was conscious. So I could tell her my name. I could tell her I was married and where I was going. I don't know how I could do that, but I would read World War II. I'm a historian. World War II stories. Guys get shot and they keep going. They take that bunker out, even though they've got fatal wounds, but they keep going. So because your body shuts down. It gives you some morphine, its own internal morphine, and you keep going. So you don't remember those things, which is good. So in that one session, I broke 43 bones. And what else? When I got to hospital, there wasn't a helicopter, so I didn't get a helicopter ride, but I would have missed it anyway. I wasn't really compos mentis. Although I was conscious, I wasn't aware of what was going on, really. I got to the ER. They took me to trauma straight away. They'd paged the doctor. It was a Sunday afternoon, the trauma surgeon. And I had a 6-hour operation, which was my first of my 16 operation. So, and then when my wife gets to the hospital, she's waiting for the medical team to come in. And this guy walks in. He's in scrubs, but she thought he was a plumber. And he goes, "Do you want coffee?" She goes, "Well, I don't want you to leave because my surgeon's going to come in, or Martin's surgeon's going to come in." He goes, "Well, actually, it was me." So then I was pronounced VSI, very seriously ill. I wasn't expected to last the night. But he said, "I've done what we can to save his life." And that's the main thing. And I had to amputate his leg. So he took my right leg off just above the knee initially, because I think it had turned around. The car had hit the foot, and the foot had done a 180 degrees. So it was facing the wrong way. But that damages, obviously, all your legs. So, or your leg, rather. And then what else did I have? I had a flail injury to my left arm with the elbow, and then it just dislocated. I broke both my wrists, and my right arm was basically smashed. But he said, "Well, just leave the right arm on its side, on its own for the minute. We'll save the guy's life, because he might not need to amputate it. He might need to amputate it, but we'll see." So I had a week in a coma. They put you under to start therapy in ICU. And after a week, they start taking the drugs off to keep you under. And they said, "Right, we can take the drugs away now, and he should recover, or he should waken up. But if he doesn't, the longer he's under, the more brain damage he has." So they took the drugs off after a week, and I didn't come around for another 4 days. So they're just, wow. Now, my mother had been told that at 3 o'clock in the morning is the lowest time. That's your nadir of your what's the word with your body rhythms? Anyway,
REM sleep?
REM sleep there. So, well, that's your lowest point at 3 o'clock in the morning. So at 3 o'clock in the morning is when you're most likely to pass away. So her and my wife were there at 3 o'clock every morning, massaging my forehead, which is the only bit they could touch. Everything else was covered up in bandages, or it was in machines. So they were there every morning. And I owe these people my life, really. My mother's still with us. She's 92. My father has passed. He's a comedian. And he just kept everyone's spirits up, with jokes and silly jokes and stupid jokes, puns and everything, and just kept people's lives
Good old
going.
dad jokes.
Good old dad jokes, exactly. What is that book? SH1T, my father says. But yes, so that was that. My wife she just didn't know what to do. In a minute, Martin's going to walk in and he'll tell me what to do.
Yeah.
So after a week, I start coming around, and my memory starts again 3 weeks after that. So as I said, I came off the freeway before my crash. That's when my memory stops. And it starts again a month after that. But after I came out of ICU, I could have a conversation. I could talk to people. No
clue. Memory.
Yeah.
So everything that you've just shared was from your wife, your mom, hospital staff, and
the police reports of the crash and everything like that. Yeah.
Now, going to the crash itself, that's obviously you travel a long distance. Are you wearing a full face helmet?
So I've got a full face helmet, which I can do the dollars. That was $2,000 worth. I had $1,000 of body armor and full leather equipment. My boots were everything was top of the range.
Mm-hmm.
It all matched the bike, but it was top of the range, and it was very, very expensive. And it all got ruined because I had to cut it off because of all the blood and stuff like that. And so I had no neck injuries and no spinal injuries. My collarbone stayed good, because my arms were wrecked, and obviously my right leg. What started to happen after, because I said the wound was so dirty, I kept getting septicemia, blood poisoning, because of the dirt in the wound, because he didn't have enough time to clean it out completely, because I could only do 6 hours. So, and I died twice on the fit.
In that initial surgery.
In that initial surgery, died twice. So they brought me around twice from Blue Line. So I'm only 26 now, and I think I look good for that, really. Although we're not on TV. But anyway,
is this because you restarted your clock?
I restarted my clock. If you die, you get reborn, don't you? So so that was that, and then my memory comes back. And do you want to go into that now? Do we?
Yeah. If you go
okay.
Ahead.
So I come round after.
Well, I do have one question for you.
Yeah.
So the gentleman who hit you, did you ever what happened to him? Did he survive?
He survived. My right knee took out the gearbox of his front-wheel drive vehicle, so he didn't drive again in that vehicle. He just careered off into the trees. His wife was with him, and his sister or her sister was in the back. So they were all in their late 70s, and they all survived. No damage, no injuries, which was great. And I would never wish ill on anyone, especially in that situation. At one point in my recovery, I was having a really, really bad day. I was at home, and in desperation, my wife, in tears, called his number, because we had his number from the police report. And he was, why the hell are you calling me, sort of thing? Because I saved all our lives. What I did, I saved all our lives. So I understand that. In his mind, what he did, which was the mistake of turning into me, saved all our lives, because he said the biker was on my side of the road, which I wasn't. And the police officer at the scene took him to where the blood and debris started and said, look, that's on the biker's side of the carriageway. How can you say he was wrong? Well, he was. And the thing is, that's how he has to cope with it. He can't cope with it any other way. He has to cope with the fact that he saves all their lives. So he got charged with driving with undue care and attention, which is the legal term for that. And he got a fine of $150, because you can't charge him with what happened to me. That may have been the result of what he did, but the legal side of things, and it may be different over here, I don't know, but you can't charge him with what he's done to me. And if you think about legal terms and people going in and with juries awarding people hundreds of millions of dollars for a broken fingernail, I'm sarcastic there. It's different over here in America than it is over there. Over there, they do heads of claim in the legal terms, and they have like 10 heads of claims. And one is pain and injury, pain and suffering. Now, what's one man's pain and suffering? If the worst thing's ever happened to you is you've broken a fingernail, that's the worst thing that's ever happened. That's life destroying. Whereas you can't argue what happened to me is worse than breaking a fingernail. Well, yeah, in a way you can, but you know.
Yeah, I think you could.
Yeah, well, okay. But what's one man's idea of pain and suffering?
I get what you're saying, that everybody has a different tolerance, I guess.
To pain.
Right?
That's the word, yeah.
But, I mean, if it were to go in front of a group of folks, I think, the negligence that somebody shows,
right,
that might be a little bit different here from at least back then in, England, 1998.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
today,
it's different over there. The insurance companies abrogate and like, okay, we're not going to pay this sort of thing. And so that's what happens. And it's the same over here, but then the juries will take over. Now, he was found guilty of his crime and he did his $150 fine. And then he said he never drove again. I don't know. Who knows? Yeah. I mean,
he went down to the pub.
He went down to the pub. He drove. Yeah. He's I mean, he's probably not with us anymore. I know it was 26 years ago. He was late 70s then. So, but I wouldn't wish it on anybody in that respect. Yeah. I'm a bit different like that.
Well, it's definitely upsetting. I mean, you put it a good way. Like that's the way he copes with it, is kind of maybe push that blame off. So going off of him and back to you, you're in the hospital. When you finally get to the point where you can remember back, okay. Yeah. What goes through your mind? Like, to me, when I hear your story, to lose a limb, it's not the end of the world after I meet somebody like you. But what goes through your mind you're 26 at that time?
I'm 30 at this time.
Oh, 30 at that time, when you wake up and you realize.
So let's think. So I'm just going to clear my throat. Hang on.
Go ahead.
So I wake up, I see in my room, I'm in a single room, in front of me is a nurse. Her back's to me. She's putting cards on the wall. Best wishes, well wishes. Well wishes cards. I had over 200. She's sticking them on the wall. So I'm lying there going, I know something's bad happened, and it's some time away. But why am I still in the hospital? So then I have my right arm is in a scenario where I can't move it. It's got external fixators in. So metal is in the arm, it's been drilled into the arm to hold it steady, hold it straight. So then my left arm, I had those fixators in my wrist because I've broken the wrist, but they're gone now. So I can see the scars. My left arm, I can't use a great deal. I've gone from, I didn't know this at the time, but I'd gone from 185 pounds in weight down to about 90.
Wow.
And the surgeon had said to my wife, because of his I call it pre-morbid, so before the crash fitness, he wouldn't have come out without this because he was so fit. I'd been to the gym because I was on standby with the flying. I couldn't go flying, so I would call up crewing, can I go flying? They'd say no, a dispatch. And then so if I can't go, I might as well go to the gym then. So I was triangular. I was actually very, very pleased with my shape, and that had all gone by the time I woke up after a month. So the first thing I noticed, I've got something in my nose, which was my nasal feed. So I reach up with my left hand, which anyone can use, and start pulling it out. It was like a magic trick, So you start pulling out handkerchiefs from a pocket, and it just kept going. And I kept pulling this out, and then it got sticky, and it kept going, and it kept going. Are you kidding me? So then I get to the end of it. Well, now what do I do? So I threw it on the floor, and then wiped my hand on my shirt. And then the nurse turns around, and she goes, Martin, what have you done? Fine. Okay. So they were just deciding whether to take my nasal feed out and start feeding me with a spoon. And I made the decision for him. So I knew something bad had happened. But in my mind, as I came to think over the next couple of days, well, I'm going to fly again. I may not walk again because at this stage, the whole of my leg had gone because I mentioned he took it off above the knee. I kept getting septicemia, another operation. Take another inch off, another operation, take another inch off. But in the end, he said, I'll just take the whole thing out. So the whole leg is gone. Not even the femur head is there. The hip's there, but no leg at all. So I can't plug a prosthesis into my leg and go and do a marathon. No, there's nothing there. So, my prosthesis that I rarely wear nowadays is just uncomfortable to wear. Because the metal leg you strap onto a what's it called? It's like a armored boxer shorts. So the armored boxer shorts fit around your hip, and they can't be they can't be like a cushion. They can't have any kind of cushioning, because then when you walk, you'd put your foot in your weight onto a cushion, and then your stable leg, your gait would be very bad. So and you wouldn't have any kind of feedback. So it's much easier on wheels. So I get around on my wheels, and in fact, where I volunteer now, they call me Wheels, strangely enough. And you can see people going
affectionately, I'm sure.
Absolutely, you can see people going, can we get used to this? Is this PC term? Is this woke? Can we use that? Anyway, so but yeah, I get in there first. And it's like anything, I get in there first. And my aim is to make people politically comfortable with my scenario, because it's a very visual disability. My whole leg is missing, and my right arm is in a protective cover, so you can see there's a lot going on, and my left arm won't straighten, although you can't see that necessarily. But people just don't know what to do. Do I offer to help him? Do I have to open a door for him? Is it going to be upset? And as I say on stage to people, if you want to help, please help. Please offer to help. I'm always happy for someone to help, especially if it's at a buffet, and I've got one hand to propel myself, hold my drink, hold my food, and spoon food onto the plate. So if someone wants to help, please do. I'm very happy with that. Going up hills, I have to go backward, because most people look at a wheelchair user, they've got two big arms, and they can't use their legs. I can use my one leg, and I can stand up, I can hop around, but to go up hills, I have to go backwards and use my one good leg to push myself up the hill. Because if I use my arms, I'll just go round and round in circles. I've only got one good arm, like swimming.
I'm glad you're bringing this up, because I'm definitely one of those folks. In fact, quick story, when I actually first met you, the day I first met you.
Yep.
I can't remember who it was that introduced us. It might have been Alex.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, you should meet Wheels."
Mm-hmm.
And you weren't right next to us, but you were close enough.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, oh my God, I mean, I appreciate a good joke as much as the next guy, but holy shit, he's right there.
Yes.
And then you turned around and you actually had Wheels on your
on my shirt.
Your shirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it all kind of came together pretty quick, and you introduced yourself with that as well, or at least made the offer for me to call you Wheels. So
yeah.
But growing up as a kid, I went to grade school in the 80s and into the 90s and stuff. And I just remember, at least here in the US, there was always this sense of anyone who had any sort of physical disability, or let alone someone in a wheelchair, like they can't do anything by themselves. You have to help them. You have to you got to treat them like a piece of glass, and white glove and the whole bit. So I not to give this my generation of folks an out on it, but there was that push where nowadays I will definitely say, hey, there's a lot of people with all sorts of different disabilities.
Right.
You don't count them out, but I'm glad that you put it the way you did. Like, hey, I can do it. I'll try to do it on my own. But if you want to help, have at it.
To my undying discredit, I would cross the street to avoid someone in a wheelchair in the past life. So you could argue that you deserve it. No, I'm kidding. But so I know what it's like, and it's back to being the Air Force and enlisted an officer. You know who looks at whom. So I thought, okay, so I know how that comes. So I try and get in there first. I'll put your best foot forward. I've only got one, and I try and do that first, because people, you can see it in the back of their mind. I'm thinking this, but I shouldn't do that. It's not right. And I'll get in there first. And then if I come out with it, and you can see them say, hear them think, can I laugh at that? Is that okay? Like on stage, I can do a joke about someone in a wheelchair, and you can see the audience going, can I laugh at that? Am I allowed to do that? I did it. It's okay. You can laugh.
Well, I mean, you have such a great attitude about it, but let's go back to your recovery phase.
Right.
And there's a part in the book, Searching for the Summer, the first book you wrote, and you have two, and we'll get to that. But there's a couple passages in here that I want to read. And this first one, I do remember the day I read it. It was like, man, this is probably one of the most powerful passages in the book, I think. But it not just encompasses your story, but I think it's so many people out there and what they struggle with. So I'm just going to read this, just a couple lines here. Quite often I had no idea why I was crying or what had set me off. Sometimes nothing would set me off, and I would just dissolve into an unconsolable sobbing. Sometimes, in an effort to help me cope, my mother and Ann would your first wife,
Yep.
right? And you mentioned your mom and Ann would come in.
Yep.
Would point out that they were on 1 month down from the morning road ahead of you, since this was the length of time that they had to cope with your loss while you were either unconscious or drugged up. And this is the line here that got me. There are good days and there are bad days. And later there are good days and bad hours. And later still, good weeks and the occasional bad hour. You know, that part right there, whatever you face in life, whatever issues you have, I think that's the mindset that you have to speak out loud. You know, people say, oh, speaking into the universe and, you know, speak positive and this and that. But sometimes most of the time that's easier said than done.
Of course.
But reading that, I'm like, you know, you at least have to accept that it can be very dark right now.
Yep.
But you have to tell yourself and convince yourself that it's going to get better each day.
Right.
You know, post crash, when did you start to feel hope return?
Well, right from the start, I had that hope. I'm going to fly again. And that's what kept me going. And as I say to people on stage, never cut down your family's hopes. So if your child says, I want to be an astronaut, okay, he may never be an astronaut. However, don't shoot him down for that. You have that hope. My hope was to keep flying again. I was going to go flying again, and that kept me going right from the start. When I started crying, yes, that was a bad time. That started my depression, because it's like any kind of loss. A loss of a loss of a loved one. It's a loss of a whole limb. And you could argue a loss of the whole, not life, but I lost all my licenses. I lost my flying licenses. I lost my car license, my motorcycle license, my heavy goods vehicle Class A license, which I had at the time. They were all taken away because of the crash. And then...
So did somebody just assume, well, he lost his leg, take it away?
Yeah, this is what happens in the UK. In Europe. Europe is a great environment for saying no first. Whereas the America is, well, if you can do it, and that's how I got my FAA license, my Federal Aviation Administrator's license, and my license of the DMV to drive, because if you can prove it, you can have one. Whereas over there, it's more it's a right, not a privilege. So they can take it away from you, and they do for the crash scenario. So they take it away automatically. You can get it back, which I did. However, they take it away straight away. And ultimately, I lost my marriage license because my wife of 9 years at the time decided, you know, I don't really want to be pushing you around in your 80s in a bath chair. So I'm leaving. So, but she stayed with me for the worst 3 years of my life, that depression. Because when I came out of hospital, you get very goal orientated. So in hospital, well, okay, I'm going to hop today 5 feet. I did 4 yesterday. I'll do 5 feet tomorrow. And then people say, yeah, that's a good feat you did. No, it's a good foot. I've only got one. So, I mean, you can. There's a Monty Python did a movie, and one of the scenarios is an officer gets his leg taken away.
A flesh wound.
It's just a flesh wound, exactly. Yes. So I do this people come to see me in the hospital, and I'd say to people, you know, one of the officers has lost a leg, and they'll go, oh, well, we'll organise a party. No, it's not hardly that. It's not a good thing. No, a search party. Oh, a search party? Yes, okay. So I could do that whole sketch, and people would I could see it in their mind going, this guy's just gone loopy. He's on too many drugs, probably. That's what it is. So, yeah, but it kept me going. I had to fly again. And my parents are going, you know, what do I tell my child? Mm-hmm. I was my dad's favorite, and you should never know that as a child, that you were a father's favorite or the runt of a litter or whatever. But he, to his own dying credit, he says, okay. And he carried on, we'll go that way. So I had that thing. And yes, the bereavement, it lasted 3 years. And I only came out of it when she'd left, my wife had left, and I managed to get into the mental recovery system. And the lady who was in charge of the psychiatric department of the local hospital where I was living on the Isle of Man in the Irish Sea, she came in and said, well, tell me your story, and I will decide which one of my counselors is best to look after you. So I said, okay. So I told her the story. The whole thing came out. And she looked at me and she sat back and went, wow, that's a pisser, isn't it? Now, that was the first time in 3 years that anyone had said that. And I burst into floods of tears to be acknowledged. Because my father, the comedian, is a great one for, yeah, well, it could be worse, couldn't it? Yeah, Dad, but it really hurts and this is, I'm bleeding. And yeah, but it could be worse. Well, yes, it could be, but, it really hurts now. And yeah, but it could be worse. So in a way, that trashes over your feelings. So at the end of it, you go, yeah, it could be. I could be dead. So I'm having a great time. So I'd had that for 3 years. It could be worse, and I'd had to get on with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so for this lady to come out and say, wow. And so I felt acknowledged, and it started me climbing up that big pit I got into and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And through the therapy that she gave me, she said, "Cause I'm going to treat you." She said, "I don't want to give this to anybody else." She said, "I'm the best person to treat you." And I forget how long I was with her, but and it was CBT, cognitive based therapy. So different words and different ways of looking at things. For example, so I'm on my own, as in the wife's left, so there's no one to look after me. So I had 2 ladies used to come in on a rotational basis to help. And they would cook me meals because I hate cooking. I just, cooking for yourself anyway. So I don't. That's what tins and sandwiches are for. So they would come in, cook meals for me, clean up after me. And so the therapist said, so, what did they actually do for you? Do they do any personal stuff? I said, no, I can do it all myself. Right. So they just cook and look after the house. Yes. So I need carers. You said, are they carers or are they housekeepers? So in my mind, the class-conscious mind, because I said in Britain we're classy, we have different classes rather. A housekeeper is below carer in the scheme of things. So counsellor said, just ask them. So I asked them both, would you mind being called a carer or a housekeeper? Well, a housekeeper, because that's what we do. Right. And just by changing a few ways of looking at things, for example, I couldn't do the yard work anymore. So she said, who does it? The counsellor said. Well, I get a gardener in. So you organise the yard man to do the yard work. Yes. So you do the yard work. I suppose I do really. I just don't sit there with a trowel and actually do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So just changing the ways to look at things.
Yeah.
So that was cognitive-based therapy. And so that started me over the whole out of the depression scenario. Right, okay. Now where do I go? I've got this dream that I've had for the past 3 years since I've been in hospital, and now how do I get around it? So
it started with really the most basics. You talked about, taking that first step, going from 4 to 5, and then when you're back at home, how do you cope with just the everyday life, from the bathing to taking care of the house, and then eventually into what we're going to talk about here in a bit. But I do want to go back when you mentioned the memory loss.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious. Was the memory loss just of the time frame of the accident, or can you talk on, like, did you lose any of the skill set you had from flying? Like, were there portions that were blacked out on, I don't remember how to do this or how to fly that?
No, interesting question. The memory is really of this scenario. So from peeling off that freeway exit, to waking up again, that was that memory that was lost. So I didn't lose any cognitive skills or anything like that. And in fact, I had to get used to flying again in my condition with one arm and one leg. But I was as good with just 2 as I was with 4. So I didn't lose any of those skills, because I was still, and as an instructor, a flight instructor, I became the first flight instructor in Europe. I could then say to my trainees, well, I can do it. Why can't you do it with your 2 arms and 2 legs? So it was that kind of teaching implement. But no, I didn't lose anything in that respect. And I just had to get used to doing things in a different way. So using 1 arm as opposed to 2.
I would imagine that would be a great teaching tool, to kind of flip that on.
If I can do it, yes, exactly. So even teaching disabled people, because everyone's different, as you mentioned earlier on, we've all got our own disability. Some may have eyesight problems, deafness, and you see people, they drive up in their sports car in a handicap position, in a handicapped parking slot. They put the blue badge on the windshield, they jump out and run into the shop. You think, hang on, that's not right. But then that could be the best day of their week. They could have 6 days on their back, flat on their back in pain. One day they get up, wow, I'm out of pain. And they've got one day they can go out and run into the store. So you have to look at that. Now, some people may be using their father's badge and he died 10 years ago, but there's karma for that kind of thing. So it's just, yeah.
Thinking of a student, potential student wanting to learn how to fly, and they look at you and they're like, man, Martin has not only learned, but he relearned how to do this. And who inspired you, if anybody, while you were on your recovery journey?
So in the Air Force, there was a guy called Douglas Bader who in 1931, an awful long time ago, he had a crash and he lost both his legs. He lost one above the knee and one below the knee. So in effect, he didn't lose completely his legs. So that's the way that people portray it. He got flying again. It took World War II to get him flying. And he was a Spitfire pilot, and he shot down the German planes in World War II.
As a double amputee?
As a double amputee. And I thought, well, I don't need World War III to get me flying again. Hopefully that's not going to happen. So I just got flying by sheer dint of, because I mentioned that they take all the licenses away. Now the Civil Aviation Authority, which is the FAA in UK, said, well, you can't fly again. Well, why not? Well, we have no rules for one-legged pilots. Okay, so can I make up some rules? And they said, no. So what if I do some medical checks and, show you I can do this? No. But surely I can, no. But what? No. So I guess the answer is no then. So I actually came to California, and in Big Bear, there was a guy, he'd broken his back in a helicopter crash, and he taught disabled people to fly. He had a flight school in Big Bear in California.
How'd you hear about that?
I applied. There was an organization, charity organization that helped disabled people fly. So I contacted them and said, look, I know that really the whole aim of this scenario is to get people flying, and they've never flown before, and I have flown before. So, but can you guys help me out? And the principal said, well, let me think about this. And he came back to me and he said, look, there's a fund that's never used. And it was to help people in World War II that had been injured in combat to get flying in civilian work. And he said, I'd like to put you forward as a special case. Would you mind that? No. So he put me forward and I got an award. And my award was to get my pilot's license in California, an American license. So I did that, got my American license back and my instrument flight rating, went back to UK and said, look, guys, I've got this. And they went, oh, all right, well, we'll give you your commercial license back, your British commercial license. Okay, thank you. But you can't fly with passengers. Well, why not? Well, it's safety. Yeah, but surely, you don't want to be safe then? You know what? It's arguing with the government organization or the cop that's just stopped you for speeding. You'll never get away with it. So, okay, right. I said, well, tell you what. So I can fly with passengers, so I can fly with cargo. So I can take horses flying and kill them, but I can't kill people. It's not quite like I know. What about, can I be an instructor? Oh, all right. Well, you'll have to pass a course. Okay. And a disabled flying test. Okay. So I passed both those things. I became the first handicapped flight instructor in Europe.
It's so funny that they had this superficial way of looking at things like, hey, if you have both your arms, both your legs, and you look the part, have at it.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what's going on upstairs. Maybe this guy's an alcoholic.
Right.
She's going to kill herself and take the whole flight down with her. As long as you look the part, you're fine.
So with my FAA licenses, I can be an airline pilot again, which is what I've wanted to do since I was 6. However, I'm a realist. As you say, look the part. So people expect the captain to have 2 arms and 2 legs, a peak cap, some gold bars on his shoulders, and look the part. And I don't. So the last thing you want is for you're waiting in the in the lounge to board the airplane. You've got the aircraft out there, the air steps are up towards it. and you see the captain wheeled across the tarmac in front of you by somebody. Just a minute, isn't he missing a few things? Yeah, but he's got a peak cap and he's got 4 gold bars. Yeah, but he's got, So I'm a realist. People don't pay good money to see the captain wheeled across the pan in front of them.
Okay, I'm not going to disagree with you on
Right.
that. But do you think the mindset's changed over time? Do you think there's progress in that thought process?
I'd like to think so. And I think in the last 26 years, yes, it has changed. It's like handicapped restrooms and ramps and things. When I first came here 20 years ago, they weren't as good as they are now. So yes, things are changing, but people are always going to be prejudiced. And the word prejudice, all it means is prejudging. You're thinking, oh, this is how it is. It's like someone saying, well, you can't stand up, can you? And I can. I can stand up on my one good leg. Oh, okay. You can't, you can't stand up to have a pee. Yes, I can. I've actually been asked, and I think it's in the book, I've actually been asked, how do you have sex then? Seriously? But I have that question came from not the person I'd want to talk about it with. It wasn't the tall, blonde, blue-eyed. No, okay, it was a fat Greek hotelier. But anyway, so how do you have sex? And people have this assumption. That's what prejudice is. It's like all these people are like this. All these people are like this.
Mm-hmm.
No, they're not. Everyone's different.
Yeah, just so that person who's asking the question can categorize and
correct,
make themselves feel.
But we only have a certain amount of brain power, and you have to say, okay, well, I can't think of every person as being different. So what I do is, well, it's easier to say, I'm just going to say that all people in wheelchairs can't do this. All people of this race do that. Doesn't work that way, but people have their own brains. That's what it is.
I want to go back to the book for a minute. Because you've talked about coming over to the U.S., getting your licensing, and getting back and flying. Another passage that I wanted to highlight and have you talk about. This one here, getting used to using one leg was not as difficult as everybody, including me, had thought. It actually helped that I lacked any part of my right lower limb. Because if my brain sensed that a right pedal input was required, it would automatically command a movement from my left leg. It proved no bother to press only one pedal at once, as this was all it required. I've heard, I listen to other podcasts and, interviews and things with, most recently, the troops who had been sent overseas and hit with IEDs.
Yes.
Had lost different appendages and limbs and all that. And they always talk about ghost limbs.
Yes.
Feeling like that appendage is still there, but it isn't.
Right.
When I read that, I was like, man, that's really interesting, because I felt like you're kind of saying the opposite. That even though you knew your right leg wasn't there, your brain kicked in and was like, well, I'm just going to use my left.
Yeah.
Did you ever experience that, that phrase ghost limb, and feel like it was there?
The ghost limb or phantom pains, a phantom limb is always there. So whether it's an arm or a leg, if it's not there, or it's sufficiently badly damaged that you can't feel anything, you're still going to have a ghost limb or a phantom limb. And what it is, it's the brain still thinks there's a leg there or a limb there. So what I'm in my scenario there with that pedal scenario, I'm in the aircraft and I have to press the left pedal to go left. So if I have to go right, you press the right pedal, and that's when the brain kicks in and says, well, just move your left foot, stupid. So it goes across that way. But so if I didn't have anything on the right anyway, then I wouldn't make that interaction. But the phantom pain and the phantom limb is always there. So, and what it is, it's the brain looks down or sees with your eyes, you've only got one leg. So the right leg must be tucked underneath you. Maybe you're sitting on it. And that's the phantom scenario. So then I'd have scenarios where people will walk up to me, I'm sitting in my wheelchair, and they would stand where my right foot would be. Which is not something you get used to, because, well, his right foot isn't there, so it's not a problem, surely. But my brain would say, ouch, because your foot's there. And it's just, I would react and start, as in make a nervous thing, and people would get very embarrassed. Well, I'm sorry, what did I do? I didn't do anything to touch you. You didn't, correct, however, and I'd explain. Back to being politically comfortable. So the phantom pains, they used to be really, really painful. On a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is the worst pain you've ever experienced, this is an 11. And it would happen to me in an instant. So it'd be enough. So I'm talking to you and I'd have a phantom pain and it's so painful. I would go, and it's very embarrassing for someone who's with you. What have I done? What can I help? Can I help you? But it'd be gone in the same second. So the good news of that is it's there and gone. So people say, well, can you take a painkiller? Well, no, because it's not there all the time. So over the course of my recovery, they've got less and less. And I'll have one periodically, but not very often.
But so it never goes away. You still experience it.
Never goes away.
Just, wow.
Right. And the sensations are still there. There's the pain and the sensations. The pain is just, it's almost like you're being attacked and someone's hammering a nail into your knee, which is very painful. Well, it would be, wouldn't it? But it's there and gone in the same second. And then the sensations are always there. So I can always feel my leg. It's always there. There's just no pain. But it's a bizarre scenario. And I hope you never find it. I'll come across it.
I appreciate you saying that. I want to get back. You spent a lot of time talking about how England was the authorities that were kind of dictating your licensing and what you could do and what you couldn't do. When you came to the States, was it like, talk a little bit more on that? Like, how did you advocate and convince, the authorities over here to grant you instructor status? I mean, when you came here, even though there was that program in Big Bear, did they kind of look at you like, hey man, we do this program, but you're not it?
Well, that program had got me an FAA rating. So as far as the FAA were concerned, I was legal. Now, I do have a SODA, which is a statement of demonstrated ability. So that's attached to your license, and you have to go flying with an examiner, and the examiner has to make sure that you can do fly the airplane in your condition. So I have a SODA, and that's attached to your license. So it's all in the system now. I don't need it anymore. It's done. Once it's done. But every examiner who goes with you, and you could see it, they're always very fascinated. How do you do that? And so I explain it. Oh, so you do this, and right. And it becomes more of a discussion rather than a test, which is wonderful. But the FAA, unlike the American system, it's, if you can prove it, you can have a ticket.
And you're rated to fly both fixed and rotor, right? Planes Correct. And helicopters.
Yes, I'm the first rotary wing leg amputee helicopter pilot in America.
Now, be honest, let's circle of trust here. Right? You get in that helicopter, and there's a right and left pedal.
Yes.
Right? Did you have any
difficulties?
Any difficulties when you got in there like, holy shit, what am I do here?
The main thing is getting in, because the helicopters are taller than most airplanes. So you normally do a step into the helicopter. And I can't do a step, I've only got one leg. So the way I get into a helicopter is I have to stand next to it and then drape my chest onto the seat. So I bend over and my chest is now resting on the seat because it's that high. I then got to take my one leg off the ground. So I have to hold on to something so I don't fall, put that one leg on the step. Then I can push myself up, and that puts my ass on level with the seat, and I can get in that way.
Okay, so the difficulties the challenges are there. Yep. I guess what I want to ask initially was, did you personally have doubt when you got in, like, man, can I do this? Or were you just 100% like, I've got this?
Everyone else had doubt. Because we were having a discussion one day, and I said, I'd like to fly a helicopter. We can teach you. Oh, great. Okay, so I booked the equipment, and later on I'm talking to people, and they said, now we booked you in. We thought, oh, can we? Can you do this? How do we do this? Because people don't do it. So they had their doubts. No, I didn't. No, I just carried on. And it's the difference in the helicopters. You have a central stick between your legs, and then you use that to go forward, back, left, right, and then down by your left hip in a way on the floor is a lever you pull up and push down to go up and down. That's how it works basically. And then the feet are used because the rotor is going round one way, and that tries to, Newton's third law of action and reaction, tries to turn the fuselage the other way. So you use the feet to control the tail rotor to stop it going left and right. So I thought, okay, I can't get my left foot across the right pedal because there's a central stick. So how do I do this? So I got a dog collar and put the dog collar on the left pedal, put my foot through it, and then pull and push.
How much time had passed, Morton, from when the accident occurs to when you take your first flight again?
My first flight again was, well, I did fly in Florida. My wife paid for me to do an aerobatic trip, and that was 3 years after my crash. But I didn't fly the airplane.
No, I mean, because as a passenger, obviously you could get in, right? But when you actually take flight for yourself, or
so
by yourself.
that was the Big Bear and getting airborne from Big Bear City, and that was just, I can do this, even though I knew I could. It's actually proven. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I knew I could, but it had to be proven in effect. So, I mean, my instructor at the time, great guy, and he never made any kind of bones about it. He just carried on and just let me get on with it. And there was one scenario, we were doing touch and goes, circuits and bumps. So you take off, you come round in a circuit, and then you land again, and then do a takeoff again. So you're practicing getting used to how the aircraft gets airborne and how it lands. And you do it as quickly as you can, getting around, and it just makes it easier to do it over and over again. So we land at one point, and as we get airborne, we have to apply pedal to counteract the centrifugal, centripetal force of the engine. And I put the wrong pedal input in. So I should have put right pedal and I hit left, or vice versa. I can't remember now. And so the aircraft streams across. It's going across the runway now towards the maintenance hangar. And I look up and I can see the guys in the maintenance hangar, and it's deer in the headlights. They're seeing the aircraft come towards them, and it shouldn't be coming this way. And it's coming towards them, and the eyes are huge, and they don't know where to go. And so I've got to get the aircraft airborne. I'm flying it. My instructor's next to me. I'm flying it, and I haven't got enough speed to go flying and get the aircraft away from the ground. It's not going fast enough. And we're coming towards a storm drain. And I have to get over the storm drain or go into it and wreck everything. So I just got to the stage where the aircraft could fly before I hit the storm drain. So I get airborne, we stagger out, and we go flying. And then as a release of the pent-up stress, we both start laughing, and we're climbing out. I said to Mike, so when were you going to take over? He said, well, one thing, you were coping with it. You seem to be coping with it. And he said, secondly, I have my eyes shut anyway. So yeah, it was proving to myself I could do it, even though I knew I could, and that was how that worked.
Having gone through everything you did after post accident and learning how to fly again, both fixed and rotor.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of advice would somebody in a similar situation, any sort of disabled person that wants to become a pilot, like
yep.
How would you coach them to just getting started? Because you had an aviation background,
yeah,
with the RAF and with
right.
British Airways, right? So you were kind of ahead of the game after that. But let's just say this is somebody's new life. They're waking up. They're now rebuilding themselves. What would you say to them if they told you they wanted to become a pilot?
Do it. Now, we have to make adjustments. You can't do everything with everything because you haven't got things. Maybe your arm doesn't work, your leg doesn't work, or whatever. But you have to do it. And it's a case of, we're going to make adjustments. We're going to get around these things. And of course, the beauty of myself as a handicapped flight instructor, I could say, well, okay, yes, you've got 2 fingers missing from your left hand, for example. Well, we'll have to use these fingers to do this, or you use your other hand. And it's like if I fly in the left-hand seat, which is where the pilot normally sits, with my right arm being damaged, I have to use my left hand to move across or reach across the cockpit to change the radios, which are in the middle between the 2 pilots. Whereas in the right-hand side, as the instructor, it's much easier for me. But I wanted to get flying again in the left-hand seat. That was my pig-headed male pride thing. It's like standing up to pee. I had to do it. That's a male pride. Now, we've all got male pride. Some of the women have as well. But it's a case of you have to get around it. Yes, okay, I've got it. I'm going to use it to get on. So yes, you have to do what you have to do with what you've got.
Yeah. You've mentioned that humor was obviously a huge part of your journey. Well, I think maybe even before the crash, but definitely after. Right. When or how did you discover this? Your talent when it came to comedy and just being a motivational speaker?
Well, the motivational speaking came first. So I would share with people what happened, and I talked to FAA instructors, examiners about how I go flying and how we do this. I've talked to lawyers about what happened in the legal side of things. I've talked to law enforcement people about what happened in the crash and how we got around this and what happened. Insurance guys with the claims and things like that. So I can talk to whoever. I can adjust my story to whomever I'm speaking. But the question was
when it comes to motivational speaking.
Thank you. Sorry, yeah.
Comedy.
Well, the motivational speaking then came from that. So and I realized that what I'm saying is my story. No matter to whom I'm talking, what I'm saying is my story. So then I started becoming a motivational speaker because people would say, well, let's just hear your story, rather than just the flying bit or just the walking bit. So then I would put it all into one, and I had my script in my mind, and I would do that. And then it's so funny because of what the comedy that I put into it. It became stand-up comedy as well. And I do stand-up comedy gigs, and I'd incorporate a bit of my story, but really it was only a case of what happened. So I'd put my false limb, my prosthesis in the cargo hold when I go flying with an airline.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'd get to the destination. And the beauty of my scenario is that the privilege of my scenario is when you're loaded first, which is rank has its privileges. I'm elitist, I know that. But when you get off, you get off last. Now, the good news about that is when you come to the where the baggage is, your bag's the last one going around the concourse. So there's my bag. That's great. So that's easy. So there's advantages. But this particular time, I remember I get to my destination. I'm getting last off. So all the passengers are gone. The crew are with me. And they come in and say, well, we've lost your leg. You've lost my leg. We don't know where it's gone. You don't know where it's gone. Okay. And other times they've lost my wheelchair. Now, this is your lifeline. And I think I say in the second book that a friend of mine, he broke his back in a Harrier crash, which is the jump jet.
Mm-hmm.
When the engine failed. He's hovering, engine failed. It goes down, crash, it breaks his back. And he said to on one of his TV interviews, he said, the wheelchair is your friend. Yes, it's a complete pain in the patootie, but it's your friend. It gets you around. You can't get around without it. So, yeah, that kept me going as well. But yeah, Douglas Sparta and that guy kept me going in my hospital, in my recovery. But the stand-up comedy started to evolve, and I realized that as normally what happens is you get introduced by an MC, and there's like 5 or 6 comics, and they all go on, and the object is who's going to drop the F-bomb first. Yeah. And I remember I did a local restaurant where I was living. I did a comedy gig there. And there were 10 of them, and I was last as the comic from the local area. And then I lost count of the people that come up to me and said, those first guys are all potty mouthed, and you're just great, and you did good story, and you didn't swear, and it was good. Okay, thank you. That was a nice bit of feedback. So that was a stand up. But then no one paid me to do that, not even expenses. So I'm using all my own money to do this, so I've stopped doing that in a way for that reason. But the stand-up comedy and the motivational speaking, I can still do that. It's just that the script I have in my mind, and we talked earlier on about injuries and things. Well, I have brain damage from the crash, and it's only come to light relatively recently when I could come to a part in my script that I forget the word, and I come to a crashing halt. So,
do you think using like oh man, I'm having a brain fart on the
script?
No, yeah, well, a script, but like what politicians use, the
oh yeah, so
not a projector, but
yeah,
teleprompter.
There you go, good spot. Yes, you can do. However, having said that, then you're reading off a script, which is what they do all the time. But that wasn't the part of me. Was eye contact, and a lot of people have said to me that because of your eye contact and your engaging story, no one uses their phone. They're all looking at you, and it's like, you remember I said there was the guy that asked me how do I have sex. So I would give that story in my spiel, my motivational speaking, or whatever it was, but my eye contact would fail, and I'd say to them, I'm not going to do eye contact now because I don't want to. You know what happens? You look at five people and you go through the eye contact, left, right, left, right, left, right, and then you finish your story. How do you have sex? And you're looking at the tall blonde in the. So no, I'm going to look elsewhere and not even come to a halt on looking at someone's eyes. So yeah, again, you have to change the things with what you have.
Yeah.
So if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, between everything that you are licensed to do, trained to do, have done, what's your daily life look like now, both personally and professionally?
Well, I retired from the flight training world, and my day was getting up, having breakfast, sunbathing, watching Netflix, going to the gym, coming back for ice cream, having a nap, and that was my day. It was great.
That's a good day.
That's a good day. And that was my retirement. Now, I know that it's a 3-month scenario, whichever happens. So someone is new to a job. Give them 3 months and they'll start slacking off. So I knew that after 3 months, I'd get bored with that, want to do something else. After 2 months, my wife runs a dog rescue, Pause for Thought Animal Rescue, and Cleo was one of our pregnant dogs, and she gave birth to 9 puppies in our dining room. And I was there for that, and that's now my job. So I do the dog rescue, helping out with that. I went to Barstow yesterday, pick up 5 puppies that are today in Hillcrest with my wife. And so that's my major thing now. I also volunteer with the local law enforcement scenario company. And so I help out with that. And the volunteer, you don't get volunteers in the UK with the law enforcement.
Not at all, huh?
Not at all. Not at all. So, and even ride-alongs are frowned upon. What's a ride-along? Whereas ride-alongs over here, a citizen can go out with a law enforcement officer in a vehicle and see what they do.
Right.
And it's a beautiful thing over here. So I started doing that when I came over on. That was me hitting a microphone. Sorry, on TDY with the Air Force, and I started going to law enforcement. I did some Las Vegas Metro and Alaska and Florida. A couple of guys. This is what I want to do. So when I was leaving the Air Force, I wanted to come over to here and become a law enforcement officer, and blissfully ignorant of what you need to do to become a citizen or whatever like that. And so they actually called me up from the academy that I'd picked and said, what's your legal status? And I said, excuse me? I have no clue. And they said, well, how can you come and live in the state? Well, can't I just come and live in the state? No, doesn't work that way. So I thought that's it. My life, I can't do that anymore. However, I came here as a handicapped flight instructor, and then volunteer with law enforcement, and so which is great. Which is my way of getting out and giving back to the community. And I think that's also important. You give back to the community, no matter what scenario you are. Yes, I'm handicapped, I'm disabled, whatever the word is. And people say to me all the time, what's the right word to use? What's the PC word? I don't care. I don't care whatever you want to say, because I am handicapped, I am disabled. All these things are right. It's like saying I am white. Yes, I am. It's not racist. It's realistic. So there's that, and there's also the thing that I was going to say about that. It's handicapped. Anyway, so yeah, carry on.
Well, so I want to jump in and say, so you talked about, hey, when being a handicapped pilot, right? Nobody wants to see their pilot getting, in a wheelchair going up to take flight. From a law enforcement standpoint, do you ever get any comments, any odd looks when you step out of a patrol car?
Not at all. And I think what it is, it's the common mentality nowadays. Everything has to be acceptable. You could be bright green; it doesn't matter. It's the beauty of the American system. You can't not negotiate. What's the word? You can't discriminate. There you go. In creed, color, whatever, status, whatever. So, and I think that's an advantage in America, because I see in Europe people will park in a handicap slot and they're not handicapped because they want to go to the ATM that's right next door. And I might say to them, well, hang on, you can't do this. I'm only going to be 2 minutes. That's what the guy that hit me said. It's not true, but I try and embarrass them. Whereas over here, people don't generally park in the handicap slot unless they are disabled. Even if they're using their father's badge and he's died 10 years ago.
Yeah. So, I mean, to get to this point and to get to your thinking and your thought process, because I think I don't know if you're a little bit you got a lot of common sense, I think, when it comes to it. When you're like, hey, I don't care, call me whatever. And,
Right,
you know,
right.
you have a very even way of looking at things. In my experience,
Yep.
most people lean one way
Yeah.
or the other,
Yeah.
right? You know, so when you were at the lowest point of your recovery,
Yep.
what habits, I mean, what were your beliefs that just kind of kept you steady? Because you got a great outlook on things today.
Right. Well, I mean, for example, it would take me an hour and a half to get out of bed and get changed in the morning, get ready in the morning. An hour and a half because of what, you know, you had to change dressings, you had to move this and do
So
that.
that was just the physical setbacks. That
was
wasn't just maybe
no,
the
that wasn't the
emotional
brain. So yeah, so the brain takes an awful lot more to heal. It's like, you know, you break a limb and it's 6 weeks you'll be in a cast. Whereas the brain, it's a little bit more than that, and it's a bit of a change, and you can't really say. So yeah, it's a case of the attitude. It's the dream, because I had the dream of going flying again. I had that aim, and that kept me going. And yes, it was a dark time. Those 3 years, the worst 3 years of my life, as I say. But I think once my body got to the stage where it could do what it had to do, because as I said earlier on, you get very goal orientated. When I get to this stage, when my arm heals, I can do this. Doesn't always work, however. And I think once I got to the stage where I thought, you know what, it is what it is now. I'm not going to get any better than this. So, yeah, okay, let's get my brain back around it. I'll do the brain therapy, as it were, and I can get back on my foot and hop away. So.
You obviously had an adult life before the accident. There were certain things that you had become accustomed to, and now after the accident, you continued with your life. Do you define success differently now? Like looking at it, you know, how would you define success now compared to before the accident?
Gracious. How would I define success now? Says he, repeating the question to give himself more time to think. I think it's a case of succeeding where you choose. You have to choose the battles you want to fight. I mean, you're going to win the war, but you have to choose the battles you're going to get there by. And if it's a case of hammering your head against every single brick wall the Civil Aviation Authority in the UK said, you can't do this, and I can do this, and I can do this, I think that would be success. And you say, okay, well, I can't do this anymore. I can't ride horses anymore, because I used to do that, not professionally, but I used to do that very well, competitively. And they said, we can make you a saddle. You can sit on a horse. All right, so what happens if the horse bolts and rolls over? Oh, yeah, okay. Right, well, you should think about that. So, okay, I'm a chapter turner. So let's turn over the chapter from horse riding and motorcycle riding. I still miss that, but I can't do that anymore, because not having a leg, I can't sit astride anything. So, you know, you could say, yeah, you could sit on a bike and be a passenger until I go round a right hand bend and I slip off the side because I haven't got a right leg to hold myself on the bike.
And the prosthetic doesn't help with.
It won't bend like that.
No,
okay. No, because it's a scenario. There are some very, very expensive ones, and you get those through the VA if you've been military and IEDs and you've lost your limbs that way. But you know, I can't really afford to keep buying that kind of stuff, and it's a case of all right, so you choose your battles, and my battle is I'll get around on the wheels, and I fly helicopters in Southern California. Who cares? At the end of the day. That's my success.
What's your personal preference when it comes to aircraft?
Fixed wing and aircraft. Okay, so helicopters.
Yeah,
it's ball bouncing fun. Can I say that? Yeah, it's very good, very good fun. And I didn't really. It took me a long time to get used to the fact when the instructor would say, "Okay, go and put the front of your left skid on that rock." Oh, because you don't get that close to rocks in real airplanes normally. So then I could do that. So yeah, I could park it on and hover the helicopter and then park the left skid at the front on that rock, which was in fact a big rock rather than the pebble I saw from a mile away. So it's very, very satisfying. The flying world is satisfying. In the airline world, I got very, very good at it. And it's one of those things, like any kind of muscle, you lose it if you don't use it. So the bad weather at night with a howling gale and the aircraft's going not well for you, and I could fly that aircraft and get it in and save everyone. Not save everyone's lives, but get them to the place they wanted to be on time. And no one said thanks, but that's the way it is. Those are the people you want in the front, at the controls, in the bad weather.
Yeah.
They're not the best at relationships, maybe. I've had a handful of marriages. However, and it's like the surgeon. You want the guy that's the excellent surgeon with a scalpel. Not necessarily the guy with the best marriage record, but because we're not that necessarily people orientated. Although I am, but that's a different story. So yeah, that's my success.
All right. Well, Martin, I have loved having you on, man. Couple lightning round questions, because you're obviously a very likable guy. It doesn't take anybody very long to listen to you for 5 minutes.
Right.
So just a couple good to know questions I'm going to throw at you. Tough day, or maybe not, May 31st type day, but after a hard day, what's the go-to meal for Martin Lloyd?
Steak and potatoes.
Steak, potato, glass of wine, or what are we drinking with that?
A glass of red wine. I've been diagnosed celiac, so I can't have gluten. But they said your diet really needs to be meat and potatoes. Well, that's what I eat anyway. Bargain.
Yeah.
So yeah, meat, steak and potatoes.
Favorite aircraft?
Favorite aircraft's got to be the Spitfire, really, which was the thing that I first got to it when I was 6. I've got almost every book that's been written about the Spitfire at home, and so I've done lots of model Spitfires back when I had 2 good hands, and I could recite whatever you ask about the Spitfire and the angles of anhedral and the wings are 6 degrees. So yeah, I've got all these stupid little things. I've not flown one, but friends of mine who have, they said it's like an old machine. You get into it and great, okay, this is what I remember and the history and blah blah blah, and then it starts up and it starts bouncing around and it shakes and vibrates because it's a V12 engine, and okay, yeah, fine, yeah. So it's maybe better not to have that image. Maybe to have the idyllic image in your brain.
Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah. When you put yourself in it and now you actually experience it, it's kind of like when people meet celebrities, right? And they build up this.
It's a real person.
Yeah. And like, they were kind of this or kind of that. Yeah. I get that. Any one thing you miss about RAF?
It's like anything. I look back on it and it's rose tinted spectacles. It's great. Wasn't it great? But you try and remember, okay, you were always running around with your ass on fire, trying to get more money for the make the boat most out of the money that they're giving you. They're flying this jet around, and I was always behind. It seemed trying to catch up. Whereas, ironically, as a pilot, I was always way out in front, and so. As a second-rate citizen in my mind, as a Wizzo, a navigator, then I was always second class in my mind. However, having said that, 5% of people who apply get to be fast jet operators, and I was one of the 5%. So, and all the people that apply, only a handful of people get through. So I've done all that. So I have to keep reminding myself on a bad day, a really crappy day, look what I've done, look where I've got to. And I'm still doing it.
Oh, yeah.
So there's that.
Funniest leg mishap post-accident?
Funniest leg mishap. Wow. I think that always said this to me. When you wear your prosthesis and you take it off, you're going to forget you've taken it off. So you might get up to go and refill a glass of wine and forget you only got one leg and fall over. And I wanted to have that on as a constant theme through a sitcom, but no one would write it. So that's, and it's back to, can I really say that? I can't write this about him. So that's the funniest leg mishap. So yeah, there you go.
As I mentioned at the beginning, the whole reason I wanted to do a show like this is because regardless of what somebody's gone through, we can always improve. Right. Whether it's something as simple as, hey, I want to start doing this, or I was dealt this really bad hand and I need to get back. And that's why it was really just a no-brainer that from the day I met you, like, man, I'd love to get Martin in here, because I honestly think that your story, even though I know you add some comedy to it and you're very lighthearted and very fair when you talk about it, very open and honest, I do personally believe that there's somebody out there who is just absolutely struggling with a similar situation or just some sort of traumatic situation. So anything that your story brings, or somebody listening, I think is truly going to help them. With that, with the show Recalibrate, what does that mean to you, with somebody who's hearing your story?
Recalibration. When I was wearing my prosthesis, my brain would recalibrate itself to work out where my footfalls were going to go. So I could see quite a way away that my right foot, the false foot, were going to be walking on that step or that lip on the ground, as it were. So I would change my gait so that it wouldn't happen that way. You have to have a good footfall, a good footing. So the recalibration is, yes, you have to change things. You have to do what you want to do with what you have left. And that applies to anybody. And it's a case of, yes, it's bad on the day, and you think, how the hell will I get out of this? But you have to keep going, and you have to say, all right, well, what's my aims? What's my realistic aims? I'm not going to be an astronaut. Although you think that NASA must have a certain amount of disabled astronauts, surely. They must have to do that. So I can do that. But anyway, so yeah, you have to be realistic, and you have to say, well, I can't do everything. I can't do the horses. I can't do the motorcycles. Mm-hmm. So what else can I do? And even if it's a case of just existing, all right, exist. Because people have said, yeah, but I couldn't do what happened to you. I couldn't do, if it happened to me, I couldn't do it. I would have said that 26 years ago. Yeah. I'd have said that, because no one can wish this on anybody. This is your worst nightmare. I mean, they said that the technology didn't exist 10 years before my crash to keep me alive. So if I'd had it 30 years ago, I wouldn't be here. And people say, oh yeah, well, it's just the way you look at things, and it really helped people. Well, hopefully, but I don't do it for that reason. I do it because the reason is I get on do it. Why? Because I can. You know, it's not a case of, and it's like when I first came to the law enforcement scenario as a volunteer, I spoke to one volunteer coordinator, and I said, okay, I was on the phone, and I said, I'd like to say that I'm in a wheelchair, I can do this and this. And he said, well, we haven't got anybody in wheelchairs. Yeah, I know. It's a strange thing. I know I like being a trailblazer, but what if I come and see you and I can do this and this? And they said, well, I don't know. Look, if it's too difficult, I'll go somewhere else. So the current, where I am now, the guy that was in charge at the time, I spoke to him, and he had his own disability. He damaged his hands quite badly. And so he said, well, let's, come in. And I came in, I was introduced to the guys, and they met me. And to their undying credit, none of them said, well, we can't do this. Apart from one, who's the officer, who said, well, I don't think we can do this for you. And I said, well, all right, let's see what I can do. So I started doing office work and things. And then eventually they said, well, actually, you can do this, can't you? You can go on patrol because you can drive. Yes, I have 3 of my own vehicles. I can do all that. So, all right. And then the scenario was, well, you can't come away from a crash. If there's a crash in a patrol vehicle, you can't drive away. You can't walk away, can you? No, but I can hop away. If there's fire licking at my pant leg, I'm going to get away. I'm not going to sit there and go, please help me. It's like all in the tall buildings. Don't use the elevator if there's a fire. What the hell is it like? Well, I'll have to bum-ass walk down the stairs. Who cares?
Are you aware of, are there any other volunteers on the department that have...
No.
Are in a wheelchair?
Nope.
You're the only one?
Yep.
Man, you are a trailblazer.
Absolutely. Because people don't think they can do it.
Yeah.
And furthermore, the powers that be don't think they can do it. Because you get blinkered. Well, they can't do this and they can't do that. True. But they can do this and they can do that.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's probably more of a human
yes,
error.
A human nature thing.
Yeah. Human nature that you mentioned, in England, that was just their default, was right. To immediately say no.
Yep.
Before even considering, okay, well, is it possible?
And also the people. I mean, people's attitude are different because it is different. People actually look at it. You can see people look and, excuse me, I'm here. Hello. Right. They're staring at my leg. And then they might say to their mate, look, then you got one leg. I can hear you. Hello. Or I'm waiting for the handicapped restroom, that they have different restrooms. So I'm waiting outside because someone's in there, and then you see people walk past and they're, really? What? I was in Dubai, the Middle East. Now, in the Middle East, people handicapped people are sequestered. They're kept away from the public eye, and they're not. It's an embarrassment. You can't take the family out into the street because it's an embarrassment. So I'm walking through the mall. Now, the mall has a ski slope in it, a real ski slope.
In the mall.
In the mall. It's got armored glass, obviously, because behind it, it's oh good grief, temperature-wise, people are actually skiing. And yet out here, it's 120. So, okay, so you walk through the mall. And then my boss at the time was pushing me through. And this guy in front of us, full dish dash, everything. He turns around, sees me, which is unusual, and then turns forward. He does a triple take. So he turns back, turns forward, turns back, turns forward, and turns back again to look at me because he can't believe I'm out in the street. And he hits a lamp stanchion. It's crunch straight in us. See, there is a karma. See, God. so yeah, it's that scenario in Europe. They'll watch, or they'll openly point and not make fun, but they'll openly point. Whereas in America, you don't get that.
You think even to this day, it's still like that?
Yeah. I get it all the time.
I want to go back to your book, the last passage that I want to read. And again, it's, fittingly towards the end of the book, but one that I think, I definitely wanted to share. Just a one-liner, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. One can bear success on one's own, but enduring failure alone is just that much more difficult to face. Again, in the entire theme of everybody has problems. Everyone has that mountain to climb. I think this is such an important message, right? If you try to stare at it on your own, the chances of failure are a lot higher.
Right.
And that depression, I'm sure, just creeps in.
It's at this stage, my wife had left me. My favorite dog had died. And so it was a case of, I'm on my own. What's the point of doing anything anymore? Well, the point of doing anything anymore is for you, for yourself, for your own brain. Because you could crawl under the covers and never come out. That's not an answer. You could crawl into a bottle and never come out. Again, that's not an answer. You could go under a bus, and that's not an answer. And I can't say I didn't contemplate it. I did, ending my life. I didn't do anything seriously about it because it would hurt. And I was scared about the pain, more pain. So, and I thought, well, do I get into a bottle and never come out? But then I was fed up of feeling bad in the morning, crap in the morning. So I thought, well, if you're always drunk and you wake up, you're always going to feel bad. So hopefully I'm getting better now, so I don't feel bad in the morning, as in physically or physically. But it's a case of, okay, so I have to get on and do it. So get on and do it. And it's our ex-governor Arnie, he said his father was a great one for how do you feel about this? And he said, but just get on and do it. Get to do it. Yeah, that's true. Get on and do it. Yes, okay, it affects you, but do it. And things you can't do, turn the chapter, move on. Different things you can do. Maybe you can do something different. And there are plenty of disabled sections in the para-athletes and stuff like that people can do. There's always things you can do, even if you're on your own, because you're never really on your own. You join a club, you're never going to be on your own.
I get that 100%. What would be your message, though, to somebody who they're listening to you and they're like, yeah, man, I hear Martin's story and I know this guy over here and this girl over there and they did it, but I'm stuck or I'm broken. I can't do it. I can't get up. I can't get out of bed. I can't put the bottle down. Like what would be your message to somebody who's at that point of their recovery? Because
we're all different. We've all got different disabilities. As I've said before, if the worst thing that's happened to you, you've broken a fingernail, that's your life-changing experience. And if you read about things in the news and the motorcyclist received life-changing injuries, these are life-changing injuries. But your life can change, but it can still go ahead. Now, yes, it's difficult when you're on your own, you've got the bottle and you can't get around it. But reach out. Reach out, do something for the community, or reach out to a group and say, look, I can't cope. There's no problem with saying I can't cope. There may be in your brain a stigma, but at the end of the day, there isn't. There's always people out there, organizations out there that will help, whether it's AA or whatever, and whatever the problem is, there's always ways you can get help. Even if the situation, go to your local hospital or even law enforcement office and say, look, can you help me because I need something to do something. They'll have the avenues. They can't help you there and then, but they'll have, all right, you can call these people or whatever. So reach out and call for help, because there's always help out there. Nothing is different. Nothing is insurmountable, because these people have seen it all before.
The book is Searching for the Summer, A Story of Injury and Resolution by Martin Lloyd. Martin, I know this is your first book. You have a second book. Tell us a little bit about your new book. It seemed a good idea at the time. I love that. And listening to you, I know you came up with the title for that one.
Yeah.
Searching for My Second Summer. What's the new book about?
So the first book, Searching for My Summer, is the first 5 years of my crash. It ends when I get to the States. And the question is, can I stay? How do I stay? What do I do? And the second book starts the next day. And it details how I stayed in the States, how I became a citizen eventually, and how I got work permits and stuff like that. There's chapters on everything. There's chapters on stand-up comedy. There's chapters on my son, chapters on my wife. So it's how a disabled immigrant gets started in America. And I think people would like to see, what does it mean? How does he cope with it? And what does he do? Because, yes, the first book is about the recovery. And the second book is, he's recovered now. So now what does he do?
Mm-hmm.
What's next for Lloydie? So there's that. And it's a case of, that's why I wrote that. The first one was cathartic, getting me over the hump, as it were, and getting that out. And the second one took a bit longer to write, but it was a case of letting people, and it was really for friends and family. And I don't think it'll take off as a bestseller, but who knows? And the next thing is, well, who's going to play me in the movie? So I've got to find someone to play me. I've written the screenplay, the first 5 pages of the screenplay, and it come with me on the journey. So it starts off, the first scene is on a motorcycle. The camera's on the tank of the motorcycle looking forward, and you hear the noise and you hear the rushing of trees past you. And then the second scene is in ICU. And you've got this form in front of you, and it's beep, beep, beep. And then goes,
just sucking the audience in.
Yeah, and it's back to the bike, a couple of shots of that, and back to the ICU. And so what's going on here? And there's a couple of times that goes backwards and forwards. And then the next thing is the crash. So you see the impact and the bits coming off and all that kind of stuff. So it's a teaser for a producer. And that's the whole thing. Yes, I'd like to make this movie. What makes it interesting to you, putting it to me as the producer? How's it going to sell? And I'm realistic. I know what's going to happen. It's going to be completely changed. But hey, if I've got the rights, who cares? So that's the second book, and that finishes before COVID, because COVID was just a nightmare. So I finish it at COVID, although I go into why I'm retiring and stuff like that, and that's slightly after COVID. But it's there's more comedy in that as well in the whole book. It's comedy about I do the stand-up comedy scenario, and I do comedy about my wife. My wife is from Iran, so she's an immigrant as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about the differences in the way she speaks, because she's English as a second language, whereas English is my first language and the Americans is the second language. So I just, things like that she says that she thinks is right. Like, you don't strike a match, you light a match, don't you? Well, yes, you do, but the word is you strike a match, and just things that she says that I'm going to write that down. Don't write it down. It's not going in the book. No, it won't go in the book, dear, as my nose glows like Pinocchio. But yes, it will go.
Well, she's going up against, I think you even opened up the podcast with you speak King's English. So.
That's right, yes. It's her
she should be lucky to have you there to steer her down the right path.
Well, she set up, she's been doing it for so many years, and she said, I thought I was good at it. But now you come along and actually steer the words this way and that way. This is what you say. Oh, and it's like she'll be singing, singing a tune, Blinded by the Light, revved up like a deuce. So she was singing Blinded by the Light, wrapped up like a juice. What's a juice? Why wrap up like a juice? And it's not wrapped up, it's revved up like a two-seater sports car. That's the juice thing. But so, yeah, she's come on to, and like that there's the hymn that's bringing in the sheep. Bringing the sheep? No, bringing the sheaves is a reaping thing rather than the sheep. Yeah, so.
You got to love that, though, when when the wife does that. My wife is notorious for screwing up sayings, and the one that has always stuck with the family is she thought I was driving really bad one day, and she's so angry. She's sitting in the passenger seat, and she's yelling, and she's, slow down. You're driving like a bat on the freeway. Like,
a bat on the freeway? Yeah.
Well, you know how good.
Bat out of hell.
Yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Bats are great drivers, so they're on the freeway all the time.
Right, yes.
But yeah, she screws up movie sayings and songs, and one of the things I love about her. But hey, anyone listening, Martin, and I just feel after this, there's folks that can use your help, are going to want to talk to you. How can somebody get a hold of you?
I've got a website, which is flyboy1leg.com. Flyboy, F-L-Y-B-O-Y, the number 1, L-E-G, .com. That's my website. And hotmail.com is also flyboy1leg at hotmail.com. My books are, you could do a search on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, Searching for the Summer by Martin Lloyd, or It Seemed a Good Idea at the Time by Martin Lloyd. Do that kind of search, the whole thing, and it'll come up with the thing. The first book is it's in a reprint now, and it's got a helmet and a damaged motorcycle in front of it on the first page. And the second book has like an out-of-control airplane on the front, which I thought was great because it seemed a good idea at the time. I was always out of control.
All right, perfect. Anything else? Any closing thoughts before we wrap this one up?
Just do it. Just do it. Yeah, don't say no. Don't take no for an answer. And then just do it.
I appreciate it. Well, hey, hopefully we can get you back in here for the second book.
Okay.
We'll give you some time to decompress, and there will be 20 things you think of like, oh, man, I want to say this or say that. Yeah. Uh-huh. But we'll get you in here on the next one. I really appreciate you coming in. You know, Martin, you are an absolute trailblazer. I mean, when I had heard from the day I heard your story, but even hearing new parts of it today, and there's nothing better than hearing the story from the person who goes through it. But just an absolute amazing story. I stand by that, and I really hope folks who need it the most reach out to you and get the help they need, get the inspiration, the motivation they need to move forward and recalibrate their thinking and to continue that life is not over. Just do it, as you say.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you coming in.
Pleasure.
Martin Lloyd, Searching for the Summer. Seemed like a good idea at the time, searching for my second summer. I'm Leon Lopez. This is the Recalibrate podcast. You can always reach out to me on recalibrate_pod on IG. And again, thanks for listening, everybody. Take care.